macalan aici.
Astea de astea așa 18 ani, de asta 25. Dar o sticlă de asta de macalan s-a vândut, era veche de 65 de ani, 60-65 de ani, s-a vândut la o licitație cu 1 milion de lire.
Зато с нека будь тут златочка. Злата.
Ce e asta?
Cu zone. Mama zăludă. Mama a spus de
Dar intrarea noastră pe unde e? Vrei să intrăm pe sus?
Of the Scotch Whisky Experience shop. Are you here for the 145 tour? That is the 145 silver tour. I see some nodding in the crowd. If any of you also have tickets for the 145 silver tour, please come over to me. I'm over by the till.
De unde vorbește? Ah, hai să mergem.
I'm your guide today and we're going to be starting your tour in just a moment. So come on over if you have tickets for the 145 silver tour.
Ah.
Sorry.
Hai să mergem încolo pe
Whiskey cake, have you ever had whiskey cake? Whiskey balsamic?
chocolate sauce. Și văcuțele Highlands.
Să pregătești bine.
Aha. Intrăm ca în bunker. Auzi, rămâi la final, lasă-i pe ăștia să intre primii. Zici că nu mai prind locuri, așa să îndrămătesc.
Okay, interesting.
Două persoane.
You could all shuffle over this way for me. That would be great. Like just, sorry, can you shuffle over that way?
Yeah, this
please?
side.
Yeah, please, thank you. Thank you very much, guys.
You're welcome.
Are you all okay listening in English?
Yes.
Come on, thank you. Just like to go head that way for me.
Cred că ăla era, sau era de la Gold sau nu știu ce.
Are you all okay listening in English for this tour?
Yep.
And can I just double check who's over 18 on this tour? Just, do you have any ID on you? I'm afraid it has to be a physical ID, like a card, driver's license, passport, maybe something like that. Yeah, I'm afraid we can't take pictures. Licensing is really strict here in Scotland. If you look at all, any chance you're under 25, we have to check ID, and it has to be physical ID, I'm afraid. So you can come on this tour, just I'm afraid instead of whiskey, you would just get a soft drink. Sorry about that. Okay. Oh, okay, sorry about that. Sorry, yeah, you're welcome. Just head through there. Oh, yeah.
Hello.
Are you okay listening in English for this tour? Yes. I'd just like to follow me through this way.
Yes.
Come on through, guys, come on in. Yep, so take as many photos and videos as you'd like. if you can keep your videos short, we prefer people come and experience the tour rather than just doing it on YouTube. Yes, we do not come back through any of the rooms as we go through the tour, so please make sure you've got everything with you when we go from one room to the other. Beyond that, have fun, everybody. We try and keep it light. And welcome again to the Scotch Whisky Experience. Today we are going to learn all about Scotch whisky. We're going to learn what it is made out of, how it is made, and all of its different kinds. The first thing that you need to know about Scotch whisky is that there are only 3 ingredients: water, barley, and yeast. The second thing that you need to know about Scotch whisky is that it truly is the spirit
I am born from the
of Scotland.
storm. I begin life in the rains that fall across this land and fill its veins, coursing through burns and rivers, from a trickle to a torrent. I am a primal force as old as time.
It takes quite a lot of water to make Scotch whisky. Thankfully, that's something that here in Scotland we have a lot of. We even have a saying: today's rain is tomorrow's whisky. Helps us deal with the weather. And wherever that rain falls, it will land on our bushes, run through our streams, soak into our soils, pick up some of the character of the place it has fallen. Every distillery then has its own unique source of water, whether it be a highland stream like we were in a moment ago, or an underground spring like this. Regardless, another factor that will help give a specific taste to their whisky. They don't just use it as an ingredient though, they also use it for a very important purpose. Growing barley, our second ingredient. Barley starts off in the spring a bright, vibrant green. Over the course of the summer, it will turn a rich golden brown like this. It has to sit in the sun for a few days to dry out before it is ready to harvest, which is usually slightly harder work than that. Once harvested, we can start producing our whisky. We'll malt the barley, we'll then add yeast later in the process, but I do not have a distillery here to show you how we go about making Scotch whisky. The spirit is going to take our barley through to somewhere that I can explain that in more detail. We're going to follow him through to talk about the art of making Scotch whisky. Come on through, guys. Grab a seat wherever you like.
Dorme? Thank you, Marie.
So who here already knows they love Scotch whisky? Yeah, right. Who here's not too sure? That's fine to admit. Our job is to help you fall in love with it. So if everybody loved it already, we wouldn't exist. Now, unfortunately, I don't have a physical distillery here for you either, but we try and keep it as physical as we can. The truth is, every distillery will look quite different. Ours is quite a traditional old-fashioned distillery, with good old-fashioned equipment. Some will have different equipment, they will all have their own process, but they will follow the same set of steps.
Making malt whiskey begins with a clever wee trick. The barley is fooled into growing by steeping it in water. Then spreading it out on the malting house floor to germinate. As it germinates, the barley generates heat. It must be turned frequently to ensure that germination is even. To stop it growing, the barley is dried with warm air in the malt kiln. Or over a peat fire if a smoky flavour is desired. By now, the germination process has unlocked the starch, which is required for the next stage. At the mill, the malted barley is ground into a coarse flour called grist. It's a very noisy process. When the grist is mixed with hot water, the starch turns into a sugary liquid called wort. This process happens in the mash tun. After mashing, the wort is cooled. Only now can another special ingredient be added: yeast. A violent reaction begins. The washback becomes a trembling, bubbling cauldron as wort and yeast collide in frenzied fermentation. The yeast greedily devours the sugar, creating alcohol. Eventually, the yeast dies off, but its work is done. A strong, beer-like liquid called wash is the result. The wash is now a step closer to becoming a single malt whiskey. Now the distillation process can begin. The liquid is heated in a pot still, and because alcohol boils at a lower temperature, it separates from the water. This alcoholic vapor rises up the neck, and as it cools, it condenses back into liquid. But it needs to be distilled again to further increase its alcohol content, and that takes place here in the spirit still. Each distillery has its own unique shape of copper pot still, another factor that ensures each whiskey will have its own unique flavour. This time, the spirit is transformed. It is now around 70% alcohol and is known as new spirit.
That new spirit, sometimes called new make, is still not yet whiskey. At this point, it is completely clear. It looks like water. And it will be put through one of these, a spirit safe, where the distiller will cut it into three parts: head, heart, and tails. The head and the tails are too high and too low in alcohol respectively, and wouldn't taste very nice. The heart, though, is what the distiller has decided is perfect to transfer into an oak cask and mature into Scotch whisky. As we followed our barley, we're going to continue following the spirit into the cask. Come on through, and again, grab a seat wherever takes your fancy.
You are now in a secret place, at the very heart of the inner world of whiskey making. You are inside the cask. And when oak cask and spirit meet, they produce something truly remarkable.
We always use oak for our whisky casks. It's a nice, pliable and strong wood, makes a good, solid cask. It's also soluble. Not soluble, it's, you can soak the whisky into it. We also still make them by hand to this day. It's an ancient skill known as coopering. If you've known someone with the last name Cooper, someone back in their family's past, trained for 4 to 5 years to do this as a profession. And we tend to get those casks from 2 places. Number 1, the United States of America, particularly Kentucky, where American white oak casks that give our whisky a nice sweet vanilla-ish flavour and a lighter colour have often been used to make bourbon first. Second, Spain, particularly Jerez, where usually European oak casks that give our whiskies a slightly more spiced Christmas cake flavour like dryad have been used to make sherry first. And then we set fire to the wood. Only a little bit, not too much. We just scorch the inside to char it or toast it slightly, creating new flavours and make it easier for the spirit to soak in. Because that spirit, as I said, is still completely clear. It will absorb all of its colour and an awful lot of its flavour from the wood of the cask that it matures inside. It will have to stay here for a minimum of 3 years before it can be called Scotch whisky. But that's usually just the start of a much longer process. If you looked around our store before you came in, you would have seen 8, 15, 20, even 50-year-old whiskies. That is the length of time they spent in an oak cask maturing. Once you take a whiskey out of the cask, put it into a bottle, that process stops. It will stay that age forever. While it's maturing, the casks sit in a warehouse somewhere cool and damp all year round, but there's no air conditioning, just a cool, damp building. And there will be a little evaporation. The casks are not airtight. Up to 2% of the alcohol can evaporate out of the cask every year, up to the heavens. We call this the angel's share because we like to think that our angels are enjoying it. That evaporation over 25 years can mean 40% of your cask's contents have disappeared. That's why older whiskies tend to be a little bit more expensive. There's much less of them left after that time.
So now you've discovered how nature's ingredients and time itself have been harnessed in my making. I am creating where tradition, science, magic and myth all meet. My journey began many years ago in Scotland's wildest landscapes, and soon it will reach its final destination, your glass. Right, I'll have to join the angel myself.
And we're going to follow, not all the way up to heaven. Please nobody depart for the angels while on my tour. That would be very inconvenient. We're just going up a couple of flights of stairs. Come with me. You're more than welcome to use the lift if you'd prefer. Matt. All right, I'm going to give you one of these. If you would go through, take a seat. I'll give you into just in case he wants to join in.
Nu mai știu. Aici ce combinații vrei?
5 băuturi, nu știu, și am văzut că la gold era.
Păi și ăsta vă dă 105 aici. Și când le alegi turul mai lung. Pune ștampila aici, ce-i băgat cred. Cam ce-i preferat de aici, nevastă mea? cred că banană, pară și scorțișoară. Spice side ăsta, a?
Cred că poți să alegi din
Sau
astea.
Campbelltown. Ăsta are ceva caramel, măr
Vanilie.
și vanilie.
Alea sunt pastei de vanilie.
Nu e scorțișoara aia, e vanilie?
Pastei de vanilie. Scorțișoara iasă de aici.
Păi de aia ziceam. Tu de care? A, ziceai de primele aici.
Nu, complet.
Da, da, da. Eu de asta am zis că e...
Eu aici mă uit. Apoi ai zis caramel, nu știu ce
Ah,
și
da, da.
asta.
A, așa le-am știam, dar am zis de scorțișoară mai devreme.
And they can make some great whiskies. But there's only one place you can make Scotch whisky, and we are the Scotch Whisky Experience. That's right here in Scotland. Because of our geology, our weather, our climate, they all come together to make specific characteristics you can't quite replicate anywhere else, and it changes depending on where you are. There are 5 Scotch whisky regions: the Lowlands, Highlands, Speyside, Campbellton and Islay, which appear on your little map. At the end of our trip through each of these regions, I'm going to get you to scratch away at the corresponding circle, give it a sniff, and you will get an exaggerated aroma that is characteristic of whiskies from that region. So let's get started. The Lowlands are our first region. Everything from an invisible line from the Firth of Clyde across to the Firth of Tay. And look at all this barley, bright and green in the spring. The Lowlands are great for growing our second ingredient because of their low rolling hills, their broad river valleys and rich fertile soils. Also great conditions for growing golf courses and in fact the majority of Scotland's population. Our largest city is here, Glasgow, a metropolitan and industrial hub, as well, of course, as Edinburgh, our second largest city and capital, and an artistic centre as well. Every year in August we host the world's largest arts festival, the Fringe, alongside the Royal Military Tattoo. It becomes quite busy that month. Down the Firth of Forth you see these beautiful Forth bridges. This is the oldest railway bridge known as the gateway to the Highlands, or at least across to Fife. Lowland whiskies tend to be quite mild. Toast flavours, cereal grains, maybe oat biscuits will come through, particularly though if you scratch away at that yellow circle, you will get some of the citrus notes that you get from Lowland whiskies.
Chiar că miroase frumos.
Pressed ums and ahs. Next, the Highlands, our largest Scotch whisky region, with Inverness right at the centre, just down the river from Loch Ness. I'm yet to see a monster there. Some of the other guides claim that they have. You'll have to ask around after your tour. As you can see, where the Lowlands are low, the Highlands are certainly high. Known and named for their mountain ranges, beautiful rugged landscape, forests, moors, lochs. Not just mountains though, there are historic monuments as well. The Glenfinnan Viaduct, which a few of you may recognise, as well as Elandona Castle. This rugged landscape gives rise to a robust style of whisky with a little bit of that heather sweetness in there as well. What you'll get is nut flavours, honey sweetness. What's really characteristic of a Highland whisky though, if you scratch that purple circle, is floral notes from that heather. Next, you'll notice that our third region is a lot smaller than those first two. Speyside is between Inverness and Aberdeen, and it is named Speyside because it is beside the River Spey here. The Spey is Scotland's fastest flowing river. It comes down from the Cairngorm Mountains in the east, from snowmelt across ancient granite bedrock. That means it's very low in mineral content, it's very soft, water, very pure. Perfect for the region's whiskies. Also perfect for trout fishing, as you can see, and growing these beautiful green forests, which hide 1/3 of all Scotch whisky distilleries. There are 53 just in this small region by itself. You can spot them if you know to look out for these pagoda rooftops. They're on top of their malt kilns where they dry their barley. To give you an idea of just how much whisky Speyside produces, this is their cooperage. These are all empty casks waiting to be filled with new spirit. Speyside whiskies tend to be fruitier than other Scotch whiskies. You'll get some tropical fruits, some dried fruits like raisins and apricots. If you give that blue circle a scratch, you'll probably smell ripe pear. So those orchard fruits come through a lot. Our fourth region is our smallest, Campbellton. Campbellton is 100 miles away from us in a straight line. However, you will be very lucky to get there if you try travelling in a straight line. It will take you 6 hours on windy highland roads to get to this far end of the Kintyre Peninsula, one of the most remote parts of mainland Scotland. It's not much faster either by ferry from Glasgow. I've looked it up because I'd like to visit. This is Campbellton. It's a small town on a small bay. Back in the 1800s, it had 30 distilleries just on its own. It was known as the Scotch whisky capital. Nowadays, far more humble. There are only 3 active distilleries in Campbellton. I'm very grateful there are 2 more soon to open. Those that remain, though, maintain some strong traditions. They take sea salt from the air. They produce some caramel sweetness in their whisky. They'll get some toffee apple flavours coming through. Most notably, though, if you give that bottom green circle a scratch, is the vanilla that they get from the casks that they use. Last, but absolutely not least of our Scotch whisky regions is Islay. Not said Islay, it's Islay. I got confused about that for a long time. Islay is Scotland's 5th largest island. It's home to about 3,000 people. It has on it 10 distilleries, with 2 more being built now. You'll see here in the town of Beaumont the only trees that you'll notice on our tour through Islay. So how did they dry out their barley to make whisky? They used this stuff. It's called peat. Peat is dense plant matter, very, very old, well on its way to becoming coal. Now, not just rich in whisky, Islay is also rich in natural beauty and wildlife, and more than anything else, sunsets. There is nothing between the west coast and Canada except the Atlantic Ocean. A world-class place to enjoy a world-class sunset with a dram of Scotch whisky. That peat burns smoky, giving strong smoke flavours, tobacco notes, seaweed, maybe some antiseptic flavours. You scratch that red circle though, it is pure wood smoke that you will enjoy. So, those are our 5 Scotch whisky regions, which we use to classify different kinds of single malt Scotch whisky. But there is another. There is a 6th type of whisky that we make here in Scotland that is not single malt at all and makes up 90% of all Scottish whisky sold. To talk to you about that, I will need to take you through to our blenders sample room. So come along with me.
Plânge masa. Yuri care a dormit, el a dat câteva șaturi, nu mai poate.
El l-a dat de la intrare.
Astea le zgârie așa și miroase exact cum miroase whisky-ul. Cu fiecare regiune în parte, cu fiecare tip de whisky. Super.
Right. So, now that we're all seated, so far today, I've been talking to you about single malt whisky. Single malt whisky, single because everything in a bottle comes from one distillery. Malt because its grain is only malted barley. We also make grain whisky here in Scotland, which is a relatively new thing. In the 1830s, a man called Annaeus Coffey, who was collecting taxes in Ireland, patented a still that did not just take barley, it took wheat, maize and other grains as well, and it ran continuously. With that, he could make a very smooth, very mellow, easy drinking whisky that when combined with our flavourful single malt scotches, made blended whisky. In the 1870s, not too long after, you had a lot of rooms like this, where blenders would sit together, sample different single malt whiskies and design recipes for their perfect blend. You see, they were competing at the time against the Irish. Irish whisky was more popular here in Scotland and everywhere in the world, because Scotch whisky back then was universally very fiery and very inconsistent. From one year to the next, it would change in quality and flavour, even from the same distiller. But if you even out that fieriness with some grain whisky, you're on to a real winner. Andrew Usher was the first person to make a commercially available blended whisky here in Edinburgh. He was a licensed grocer who had been blending teas for some time. Other licensed grocers had been doing the same, realised they had the right skills to launch their own brands, which they did, and very quickly, blended whisky spread around the empire and around the world. Now, those of you who already like whisky may be wedded to your single malt scotches, that's fine, they're great drinks. But we have to be grateful to the blenders of this period because it was their demands for consistency and quality out of the distilleries that gave us the drinks we enjoy today. To give you an idea of how blenders do their work, take a look under our table here. A blender will start off with 70 to 80% of grain whisky. They'll then top it up with single malts according to the flavour that they want to produce. If they want something a little bit lighter, fruitier, they'll add extra lowland, maybe a little bit of extra Speyside. If they want something a little bit more complex and floral, they'll add a little bit more Highland, maybe a little bit of Campbellton. They can add peaty Islay whisky, but you've got to be careful because that fire and smoke will overpower other flavours in the blend very quickly, and that's not what you want. You want the perfect blend of flavours. It is in the name. But I'm no master at this. Thankfully, we have someone on staff who was, at least in another life.
Allow me to formally introduce myself. Douglas McIntyre, Master Blender, deceased. They've done a grand job in telling me the basics of my art, but let me try to paint you a clearer picture. Grain whisky, which makes up the base of the blend, is like the canvas of a painting. You may not pay much attention to the canvas, but if you think about it, it needs to be the right quality to absorb and display the beautiful colours in the artist's palette. In fact, any masterpiece is only as good as its canvas. It's the same with grain whisky. You may think it's only there in the background, but without it, there would be no great blend to enjoy. In the same way that the artist subtly mixes many different colours together to create his masterpiece, the blender blends the flavoursome single malt whiskies expertly with the grain whiskies to create something unique and magical. And there you have it. A masterpiece. But enough from me. I'm keeping you from the most exciting part.
Oh, thank you, Douglas. That gets me every time. Now is where we choose the whisky that we are going to try today, folks. You have some magical colours and numbers that have appeared in front of you on the table. They happen to line up with the little card I gave you earlier. Move your glass to the circle you would like. As a reminder, something a little lighter and citrusy, a lowland, that's number 1. Something a little more floral and robust, a highland, that's number 2. If you'd like something a little bit fruitier, a Speyside, that's number 3. Something with some vanilla notes, that's number 4, a Campbellton. And some Isla fire and smoke, that's number 5. You also are more than welcome to try a blend today, a little bit of different flavours, a little easy drinking. That is the one with many different colours and no number. For those of you who are not drinking today for whatever reason, we also have Scotland's other national drink, Iron Brew, available. My colleague and I will come through in a moment and distribute these for you. But an important note, do not drink your whiskies in this room. We have somewhere more magical for you.
It takes me back to my days as a master blender and selecting just the right mix of malt to bring together the subtle grains to create a perfect blend. It was a real balancing act. But remember, don't be tempted to start drinking your whiskey just yet. You'll be taking somewhere extra special to enjoy your dram. You know, I could never have imagined how old whiskey is going to change. 200 years ago, whiskey was this small industry, often a sideline to farming. But with the advent of blends, it really took off. It's hard to think that a national drink still on the hills and plains of Scotland is now available in 200 markets around the world, and valid in so many different ways. The blends themselves now account for over 90% of Scotland's.
Tu ți-ai pus pe ăsta, nu? Da, nu? Nici mie, că nu are astea.
I could go on forever, but I don't want to keep you from the trams any longer. You're about to go somewhere.
Să vedem asta. Isla.
I'll just pour these last 2 whiskies, and then, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to go through to another room. But remain seated, because you may have picked up, we like to do things with a certain sense of drama here. Which were you? 4. I'll come back, grab that in just a moment.
Știi că nevastă mea nu prea bea și nu a uitat-o.
So, where we are going to try our whiskies today is the Diageo Clyde collection. It is one of the largest collections of unopened whiskey bottles in the world, and it's very precious to us, which is why we keep it hidden here in our whiskey vault.
Să vedem safe-ul. Da, nu se vede bine pe cameră, de asta nu merge prima cameră.
Excellent. As I said, do not drink your whiskies just yet, but grab them and we will take them through to the round table at the end, where I'll talk you through. It's not a big one.
I will help her if she don't.
I'll talk you through trying a Scotch whisky.
Du el cu tine.
You do get to keep Come right through. There will be time for photos and videos after we have tried our dram.
Cea mai mare colecție de whisky.
Oh my god.
Mamă, cum arată camera asta. Deci așa vreau să arate biblioteca mea.
Welcome everybody to the Diageo Clyde collection. Please keep coming through and come right around the table. We're a relatively large group, so we will fill the space. There is a question that we get every single day here at the Scotch Whisky Experience, which is there a right way or a wrong way to drink my whisky? The answer is no, there is not. The right way to drink your whisky is the way that you enjoy it. If that means you prefer it with Coca-Cola or Iron Brew, you're more than welcome to drink it that way. I'm not here to judge anybody who can drink their own drink. That being said, there are 5 simple stages you can follow when you're trying a new whisky for the first time to get the most out of it. The first is to look at it. Hold it up to the light, see what colour it is. A lighter whisky is going to be younger. It spent less time gaining that colour from its cask. Darker, older. The next, give it a wee swirl. You're not just looking cool. You're also looking for the line around the top of the swirl. It's called the spirit line. And you're looking for how quickly drops or legs form down from that. The more there are, the faster they form, the lighter bodied a whisky is. Fewer and slower, the more full bodied. This is just how it will feel in your mouth. Lighter will feel a little more watery, heavier will feel a little more oily, and the same with how long the flavour sticks around. Then give it a nose, give it a sniff. You might just get whiskey at first. If you open your mouth a little bit, give it another try. That might help to cut through. And you could detect anything of the pictures on this table, though in your glass will only be water, barley, and yeast, or some other grains if you took a blend. Then the bit that you're all looking forward to, trying it. Here in Scotland, we don't toast with the word cheers, we use the Gaelic. For good health, sláinte. So, sláinte. Take a wee sip. After 2 or 3 sips, you will start to get an idea of whether or not you like that whiskey. It can take a moment for your mouth to get used to that amount of alcohol and just the flavour. So, 2 or 3 sips. After 2 or 3, I like to recommend adding just 2 drops of water. A couple of drops of water can change the flavour quite a lot. Can make it a lot easier to drink because it's slightly lower percentage in alcohol. It might make it better. It might make it taste a little bit worse, which is why I only say 2. You can't take the water out after you put it in, so just a little bit at a time. The last of the 5 stages, though, is the aftertaste, the finish. If at the finish, the flavour stays in your mouth for more than 10 seconds, that is a long finish. If it's less than 5 or 6, that is a short finish. And that's all there is to tasting Scotch whisky. Congratulations, you're experts. You know how to make it, you know how to taste it. What I'll do now, guys, is allow you to wander around and take some photos, enjoy the collection. We have about 10 minutes, maybe a little bit less depending on the tour behind us. I'll talk about the collection while you do. Feel free to keep sipping your whiskies, wander around, enjoy it as you do. You don't have to listen to me, I'll just be in the background. This is the Diageo Clive Vides collection. Clive Vides was the man up behind me on the wall. Clive was a Brazilian man who in 1971 was gifted 6 bottles of single malt Scotch whisky up in this corner. He was told at the time, do not open these bottles unless you're in the company of somebody who truly appreciates Scotch whisky. He thought they were so special that he began what some may call an obsession. 35 years later, he had 3,384 bottles of Scotch whisky. About 3,000 of which are in this room. Around 400-ish are on the other side of this wall with a clock on it.
The 6 original bottles.
No, he definitely drank it as well, which makes you think he must have spent a lot on Scotch whisky over those 35 years. In 2006, he sold the collection because he was getting older and he wanted to preserve it. He put some conditions on the sale when Diageo, the British drinks company, purchased it from him. For one thing, the price is a secret. We don't know what it is. Some people at Diageo might know what it is, but they won't tell you. Next, they cannot remove anything from the collection. He didn't want any of the rare or unusual bottles to be sold off, so nothing can be removed. There is also a saying in Brazil, Bom filho torna a casa, the good son returns home. It's Scotch whisky. Clive felt it should be back here in Scotland. He also wanted it to be displayed to the public, which is why Diageo asked us to look after it and show it.
Și multe sticle sunt foarte vechi.
If you are looking for the oldest bottles in the collection, we have them marked back around the corner. We've walked past them as we came in. The oldest one is from 1897. Rare old liquors, Scotch whisky, averaging 25 years in wood. A blended house that no longer exists.
130 de ani.
The 1904 second oldest, though, is John Dewar and Sons, what is now Dewar's, a brand you can buy on our shelves later today if it takes your fancy. Now guys, that's basically all the tour content that I have. The one thing that I will say though is hold on to your glasses. Your glasses are a gift from us today. You get to take them home. I'll be handing out some boxes for you to take them home in. Don't feel like you need to take down your whiskey very quickly though. You're more than welcome to finish it in our bar outside.
Astea sunt două cele mai vechi, 1897 și 1904. S-a dus și eticheta după ea. Vezi asta ce? Ce?
Mi-am dat paharele acasă.
Da? L-am lăsat acolo, l-ai pus pargama acolo?
Da. Da,
așteptăm că mai am pe aici de cercetat.
Here's some boxes for your glasses, guys. Enjoy. Thank you so much. Two of you. No worries. Pop back, pop back. You guys have your boxes. Sorry guys, the next tour will be coming through in a moment. In just a minute.
Hai, filmează și arată că o să vină
Very well. Și noi aici. Și pe Eric.
La el a dat cu praf de whisky, doarme de când am intrat.
Da. A fost cam tare presiunea atmosferică aici. Și am ieșit înapoi în ăsta. Da, suntem în altă sală. Suntem în altă sală. Du-te pe un scaun, da. Ce, niște plănuiești?
But what do you think of the smell? It smells really nice, doesn't it? I really like salt sherry. Very, very rich. You get the sweetness a little bit more.
Și un cele de-astea așa. Cred că-s de ceramic. Și bine arată.
Well, no, that's kind of.
If you guys want to grab a seat, probably out here, use it. otherwise.